Mount Pleasant Chamber of Commerce, and the League of Women Voters of the Charleston area, thank you for being here. We are John Carroll, Mount Pleasant Chamber.
Hi, I'm Cecilia Brown with the Moultrie News.
Your moderators for this forum to hear from candidates for Mount Pleasant Waterworks Commission and Town Council. The forum is being live streamed to the Moultrie News Facebook page. We ask unauthorized taping to not happen. It is not permitted. And also, we ask you to please now silence your mobile phone. If you will, if you have that with you, we'll have plenty of other errant noises. Thank you, Cecilia. The Town of Mount Pleasant will hold an election on November 5th to fill 4 Town Council seats with 4-year terms and to fill 2 seats for Mount Pleasant Waterworks Commission with 6-year terms. This is an at-large municipal election and no party affiliation is on the ballot. The last day to register to vote on November 5th has passed, but if you've moved within Charleston County, you can update your registration up to the day before the election. To do so, or to request an absentee ballot, call County Elections at 843-744-VOTE, 843-744-VOTE. Early absentee voting is also underway at the County Election Office, 4367 Headquarters Road, North Charleston, during business hours. The League offers a voter's guide at vote411.org to inform voters about the candidates and issues and help them make informed decisions on election day. Enter your home address to learn about the candidates and compare their responses to the League's questions. This evening, we'll take written questions for the candidates. Volunteers around the room will give you cards or pick them up. All we need for you to do is wave and get their attention. Volunteers, will you raise your hands so we know who you are? You're going to be out handing out cards and then collecting them once people have had a chance to write their questions down on the cards. Those will be brought here, they'll be looked at, and then those questions will come here as time permits for us to address as many as we can. We will begin. And so you'll raise your hand, a volunteer will bring you a card or collect the card once you've written it. The questions are sorted by members of the sponsoring organizations for clarity, legibility, and duplication. We'll begin with candidates for Mount Pleasant Waterworks Commission, followed by Town Council. Here's the format. Candidates for each office will be called on alphabetically for introductory remarks of 60 seconds. Candidates will respond to opening questions from the co-sponsors. We'll then ask questions from audience members. Candidates have up to 90 seconds for each response. If candidates want to make additional comments in response to a question, they will be allotted 60 seconds after all candidates have had an opportunity to respond. Finally, candidates will be called on in the reverse order from opening statements to give their closing remarks of 60 seconds. Timekeepers will signal candidates about their remaining time, and when their time is up, timekeepers, show who you are so everybody knows you. And we ask that you would please hold your applause till the end of each part of the forum. And what that means is hold your applause until the end of our segment for the Waterworks Commission candidates. We'll have a transition at that point, and then we ask that for the council candidates and their presentations and the questions and answers, that you hold that applause until the end of that segment as well. It's now my pleasure to introduce the candidates for Mount Pleasant Waterworks Commission. Rick M. Crosby, Julian Hoppy Hopkins, John W. Matthews, and Linda G. Page. We will start with 60-second introductory remarks. Mr. Crosby.
Thank you. My name is Rick Crosby. and I am running for re-election for Mount Pleasant Waterworks. I'd like to start by thanking the Chamber, East Cooper Chamber, the Moultrie News, and the League of Women Voters for inviting us tonight. Obviously, they did a great job. I really appreciate your turnout tonight. This is awesome. Many faces I recognize, some I do not. A little bit about myself. I've lived here for 40 years. I'm a graduate of the Citadel. I have my wife, Marie, here. Marie, wave your hand. We have 4 children, 3 grandchildren. My background is money and banking. I have insurance agencies in Mount Pleasant and in Somerville. And I'm running again for Waterworks to maintain clean, safe drinking water for all of us and to do everything that I possibly can to protect the environment. Thank you.
Mr. Hopkins.
Thank you. Also, I would like to, is this on?
Yes, sir. Hold that, go that close to you if you like.
Thank you. I'd like to also say thank you to the Chamber and the Moultrie News and the League of Women Voters for hosting this event tonight. I'd like to say hello, congratulations to the other members who are running for Waterworks. And tell you a little bit about myself.
Would you stand up?
You can stand up.
Right up next to your mouth.
There we go. Stand up, please. I'm a Charleston native. I moved to Mount Pleasant in 1974. Moved away for a little while, moved back in 99, so I've been in Mount Pleasant. I've been in Mount Pleasant for a little over 25 years. Presently, I am a part-time fishing guide. I fish out of Shim Creek in Mount Pleasant, and I'm a retired professional golf course superintendent. I'm committed to water quality and conservation. I'm committed to stable fees, stable rates, and I'm also committed to only running for 1 term. Thank you.
Mr. Matthews.
Good evening.
We've been asked if the candidates would stand for their opening remarks so everybody can see you. Please feel free to pull that microphone right out of that hand.
Not going to work.
Not going to work.
No, sir.
Too short.
It's too short.
See.
Well, I'll try. Okay, here we go. John Matthews, I'm a resident here for 6 years. Transplant from Long Island, New York. And here with my wife, my neighbors, and just wanted to thank you all for coming. I think this issue is going to be, this Waterworks election is going to be very important to all the people in our community. There's a folder in the back. It's this Google piece, and it's what I'm going to concentrate on. It's the only reason that I first began to think about running for the Water Commission. So if you take a look at this folder and maybe take 10 of them with you and circulate it, what it says is Google gets our water on the cheap, glad to pay nothing, leaves questions and answers to the future, and that's going to give us higher rates. So my last 15 seconds, I'm suggesting that everybody here become part of this mission and keep Google and keep Google's pipes out of our aquifer. Thank you.
Please. Ms. Page.
Thank you very much, and I'll thank you to the sponsors. And I'd like to also thank Bob Bremer, our current council member who's here tonight. And thank you, Bob. It's very important for everyone to hear the issues. And of course, the current water commissioner, Dr. Diane Lawrence, and thank you also for being here. So my name is Linda Page. A lot of people here know me. I'm an auctioneer by trade. I've recently moved to Brickyard Plantation with my grown daughter. And it's awfully nice to be up here. This library is one of my favorite places to be. So why am I running for Mount Pleasant Waterworks? I'm running for Mount Pleasant Waterworks for many of the same reasons that everyone else is up here. I'm worried about the quality of our water and the continued quality of our water. I'm of course worried about septic tanks and how septic tanks that may be failing are affecting our pristine waterways. So thank y'all all for being here tonight. I look forward to some really tough questions. And let me know if you have any other questions. My paperwork's in the back. Thank you.
So here's our first question, and we will go in the order each time. We will move, the next candidate will be the first one up for each successive question. Here's the question. Water levels in the Mount Pleasant area have significantly declined. What is your plan to protect Mount Pleasant water users' access to the aquifer and to protect the aquifer? Mr. Hopkins.
I think a lot of the answer to that question goes back to conservation. The less water that we can pull out of the aquifer, the better it's going to be for our water resource as a whole. Obviously, the Google fiasco is something that needs to be addressed. I support Mount Pleasant challenging DHEC's ruling to allow Google to pull from the aquifer. I also support any legal challenges that the town of Mount Pleasant Waterworks is doing. And again, I think if we can all just help to conserve water, that's going to help our aquifer in the long run. Thank you.
Mr. Matthews.
Yes. So Google is going to take 549 million gallons of water from our aquifer, and it's to cool their data centers. I have some suggestions for Google, and I'm prepared to make sure that Google gets them. First, their center can be cooled by air, not water. Their center can be converted by using seawater. There's a big ocean out there. They can run a pipe to the ocean, get the water in without going into our aquifer. Google, in its press releases, not here in South Carolina, but worldwide, has suggested that by 2020, next year, all of their data centers will be cooled by wind and solar. Finally, we can use reclaimed wastewater to cool their machines. And the most important thing to my mind right now is there's a secret agreement between Berkeley County and Google, so we don't know how much water Google takes from Berkeley County. There's a non-disclosure agreement there, and as far as I'm concerned, the fix is in. Google got its permit. Here we are 7 days before election, and we still don't know if Mount Pleasant's permit, which we have reduced, is ever going to be in. And I'm going to guarantee you, the permit is not going to be issued until after this election, November 5th. Thank you.
Ms. Page.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Water levels in the Mount Pleasant area have significantly declined. What is your plan to protect Mount Pleasant water users' access to the aquifer and to protect the aquifer?
Thank you very much. I think, first of all, we have to clarify about water levels declining. Yes, there are indentations, and that's what we see when the surface water draw increases and you see dips, and that's not necessarily out of the aquifer. So the first thing we need to understand is, do we really have a lack of water or a loss of water? And absolutely, I think we're okay, guys. We have safe, clean water, and that's pristine water in the Charleston aquifer. So I think the aquifer is safe, but I think what really needs to be pushed is South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control. This is not a new issue with Google. And it's not just Google, guys. We have mega farms all over the state of South Carolina and other large industries that are using much more water than our local municipalities. So this is not just a small issue. This is a large, large issue about who gets to use what water and why. And as far as the last part of the question, and I think for me, what will I do to help protect it? I'm going to push South Carolina Department of Health and Environmental Control to do what they said they would do 3 years ago, and that is to create a regional water management plan. Without a plan, no one knows who's going to get to use water. first things first, we have to have a plan, and then we move forward from there. Thank you very much.
Mr. Crosby.
This is am I on? Yeah. Okay, thank you. This is really a sustainability issue. Mount Pleasant Water Works has been fighting this battle for the past 31 years with very little success with DHEC. It goes back to the groundwater management plan, which DHEC has failed to impose. And obviously, if we have a plan, they're looking at capacity, they're looking at usage, they're looking at growth, they're looking at all factors that would impact the intake from that aquifer. We have, as you know, at Mount Pleasant Water Works, been vehemently opposed to the Google withdrawal. I signed Resolution 03-2017 requesting a delay of that approval for Google, which we went to the COG meeting. The COG unanimously supported us on a local level. It has now gone back to DHEC staff. We have not gotten a final approval and or word from them as to the status of our request. But I'll know this, if they come back and deny that request, our logical next step is to appeal to the board. And then if we appeal to the board and get denied, we will take it to administrative law court and appeal it to the nth degree. So this is something that my fellow commissioners and I are passionate about, but it does go back to the lack of a plan and a lack of engaging in the plan.
Thank you. Question number 2.
Can I just have an addition?
Yes, you may. This is a 60-second response. Mr. Matthews?
Just 10 seconds. We should join the Southern Environmental Lawsuit as an entity. The Mount Pleasant Water Works should join that lawsuit and continue to fight Google.
Any other final responses? Question number 2, how do you plan to address the public relations problem and loss of public confidence caused by the meter reading and spiked charges controversy? Mr. Matthews, we'll start with you.
Well, rates are dependent on what we call an RUV. It's a system whereby we pay for the amount of water, not by the gallons. There's an initial fee for each one in this room of about $26, $27. After that, we pay a penny and a couple of mils for each gallon that we use. The average person, according to the Waterworks, uses about 5,000 gallons of water a month. I checked my bills for the past 3 months. I've used 3,400, 3,500, and 3,600. I think that's kind of what everybody else is paying. So my suggestion is that maybe we should reduce that strict fee of $26 and raise the gallon fee by maybe a mil or two more. In that way, the people that use less water will pay less. And I think it's a fair business, fair operation. And to get back to the meters, I have a minute, 15 seconds. The meters are now such that they are checked hourly, electronically sent back to the Mount Pleasant Water Works, and the readings are done. And you can check your own readings by calling the Waterworks, and they can give you an hour-by-hour reading of how much water you're using. As far as I'm concerned, they've done a good job with the meters.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. Ms. Page?
Thank you very much. You know, public relations is right up my alley. I've been a business owner in the town of Mount Pleasant my whole life and continue to do that. And I'm entrusted as an auctioneer and an estate person to come into your family's home and deal with your most personal issues. So public relations is key. Has Mount Pleasant Waterworks done a great job? You know, I love Mount Pleasant Waterworks for what they have tried to do. Is there something more we can do? Yes. I don't think people understand their water bill. It's very basic. And I can tell you that on Saturday, while I wasn't able to attend, these 3 fine gentlemen were at Mount Pleasant Waterworks at a opportunity for you to talk to someone about your water bill. They would explain it. If you call Mount Pleasant Water Works, they'll tell you between 4 and 6 p.m. you're using 2,000 gallons of water. So, you know, the meters aren't necessarily the problem. If it's just a public relations question, for me, what we need to do is what I did when I was on town council and while I was mayor. It's increased transparency, and it's to increase this relationship. Guys, you've got to come to water meetings. Not a lot of people come. We need to understand water is life-giving. It's very important to all of us. So, you know, can we do better? I think we can. Have they done a good job? I think they have. I know that's a two-sided answer, but we all need to do better by being more engaged.
Mr. Crosby.
Thank you. Many of you may know that we're involved in a class action lawsuit, so sadly I am unable to comment with respect to the bills and or the meters. But I will make a couple of comments that I hope that you will take away. Having been there 21 years, I have absolute and complete confidence in our system. We have outstanding employees, we have highly trained professionals. Mount Pleasant Water Works is truly well ahead of most of its peers. That being said, I think we need to understand that there is an opportunity for us to communicate better with our constituents. We had 2 public hearings this year, one at Town Hall, one here at Wando Library, to go over our annual budget and our strategic plan. And unfortunately, we probably had 20 people come to both of those meetings. We are exceedingly transparent. The meeting that we had on Saturday that the 3 counterparts attended, we had probably 15 people, but the 15 people that came, I believe, left with a much better understanding as to our billing systems, our new meters, and our entire process, and meeting with our customer service staff. So I go back to my original statement. I have complete and absolute confidence in our system, and quite frankly, there's not a whole lot more than I can say because I've got to stop. Thank you.
Mr. Hopkins.
Thank you. I attended the forum that they were talking about on Saturday, and I have to say this, I was skeptical of the meters, the meter reading, the whole system, until I went to that forum on Saturday. Afterwards, I have 100% confidence in not only the meters, but the system. Moreover, I've got confidence in the Mount Pleasant Waterworks employees who were there and took the time to explain things to myself and the other citizens who were there. My water bill is $48 every month. It's kind of like being on salary. The only time that it's ever really gone up was one time I forgot to pay it, and they were nice and waived the late fee. Anyway, what we have with the new system is we have information at our hand and at our fingertips. Coming online in 2020 is going to be a system where you can look on your phone, look at your water bill, and see exactly where you're using the water. Moreover, Mount Pleasant has employees that will come to your house, help you read your meter, help you understand what's going on. Anyway, I'm seeing I'm about ready to be shut off, but to just summarize, I really do believe in the system, and I hope that all this can get worked out between the citizens and Mount Pleasant Waterworks. Thank you.
We have a response. Mr. Crosby?
Just wanted to make one comment. Social media can be a blessing, and social media can be the devil. I will say that it's interesting to note that for the past several months, our staff has been monitoring very closely social media. And it's interesting to note that the names that we see on social media have failed for the most part to come to Waterworks, to meet with our staff, and or come into our workshop on Saturday. So transparency, I keep hearing about transparency. When we advertise in the newspaper, when we advertise on social media, when we word of mouth as much as we can to get people to come and engage and communicate in person rather than behind the keyboard at night, it would be very much appreciated because I do believe that we'll be able to offer great assistance. Thank you.
Ms. Page, a response?
One short comment. I did get a phone call today from Clay Duffy, who of course runs Mount Pleasant Waterworks, and I was on Nextdoor this morning, and there was a comment about someone's bill. And Clay wanted to make sure that I understood what the issue was with that bill in that particular climate. And that's how great they are sometimes. So just wanted to add that.
Mr. Matthews, a response?
I just want to say Clay called me and I called the customer and everybody's happy.
Question number 3. As this is the last candidate forum before the election, can you briefly summarize the strengths you would bring to the position of commissioner if elected? Ms. Page, we'll start with you.
Thank you very much. Well, you know, the strengths I bring to the commission are the strengths that I bring to everything I do in life, hopefully. That's honor and integrity. So first and foremost, I have a lot of integrity, and I hope that y'all feel that way. I have over 8 years of budgeting for town council, and that's over $100 million a year, so this is a less budget, so I certainly bring that. And as a parent and a business owner my whole life, I have responsibility. I have responsibility to my family. I have responsibility to my community, and that's why I'm here to serve. So what I bring is a lot of experience and a lot of heart, and I hope that you will vote for me on November 5th. Thank you.
Mr. Crosby.
Experience. I think experience in our election is critical. I mentioned to you earlier that I've had the privilege to serve you for the past 21 years. That being said, I've been through 21 budget cycles at Mount Pleasant Waterworks. In 2012 and in 2017 and 2018, I was an active participant in our 5-year strategic business plan. I've also been actively involved in our 10-year $400 million capital improvement plan, which is protecting $2 billion of your assets that are in the ground. So I've worked with staff. I know our staff. We're going to begin our succession planning. I know all of our key staff members intimately. It's an important decision that we'll be making going forward, but I think the main thing that you need to take away is our experience of having spent 21 years working with you as a commissioner of Mount Pleasant Waterworks, and then most recently, my last 6 years of having the honor of being the chair. Thank you.
Mr. Hopkins.
Thank you. I'm committed to water quality as well as conservation, but especially water quality. As a fishing guide, and I fish out of Shem Creek. I'm on the water. I see changes. It bothers me that Shem Creek is annually listed as South Carolina's most polluted waterway. I would really, well, I shouldn't say really that many times, but I would, all right. Our marsh, I get a little bit choked up saying this, our marsh is the cornerstone of our environment around here, of our ecosystem. When I see it being damaged, when I see it being hurt, I get a little bit emotional, and I'd like to do things to try to help that. The septic tank still draining in the Mount Pleasant watershed are bad news. Whatever I can do to help that out, working with any agency, any government that I can, I would like to. I'm also efficient at being a golf course superintendent, efficient at long-range budgeting, planning, staff development, as well as other things that I think I can bring to the table and help if I'm elected as Waterworks Commissioner. Thank you.
Any responses? Question number 4.
I didn't go yet.
Oh, forgive me, Mr. Matthews. Please.
Okay. So I've been in my own business. I was in my own business until 18. For 50 years, it was an insulation and contracting business. I mention that because back in New York, where I was from, the utilities there, Con Edison, Brooklyn Union Gas, and other utilities set up programs whereby contractors had to meet certain standards. Once you met those standards, then you could go on a list, an approved list, to do work for those facilities. Now, right now, we have a problem with the irrigation meters in Mount Pleasant. I bring that up because the meter itself costs $730, but it costs thousands sometimes to install the backflow valve. So I'm suggesting that the waterworks should either come up with a system where we change the law and the waterworks does the valve, or we put up a list of contractors. That's number one. Number two, for 5 years, I was the Commissioner of Elections in Nassau County, New York, 500 employees, population of 1.3 million. I worked on budgets. My budgets were in $1 million. I think I could serve this commission very well, both in budget, finance, and audit, the 3 committees that are there, and I'd like to serve on them. Thank you.
Thank you. This is question number 4. What is the top issue you will address if elected, Mr. Crosby?
Well, clearly the top issue right now is the water issue that we have with DHEC. It's pressing, it's current, and decisions will be made very soon with respect to that. You know, we gather and take in about 6 million gallons a day. I'm sorry, we buy 6 million gallons a day from Charleston Water. We take in about 10 million gallons a day from the aquifer. It's not a 5-year or 6-year issue, it's a 20-year issue. It's an issue for your children, my children, our grandchildren. The growth of Mount Pleasant has been phenomenal, and we absolutely must have sufficient quantities of water in order to accommodate our future needs. That is indeed job one.
Mr. Hopkins.
If I'm elected, I would like to lead an effort, really help promote water conservation within our ratepayers. I think the average person who claims to have an excessive water bill with some help from the resources at Mount Pleasant Waterworks can probably see their average bill lowered by 30%. I would really want to help get the word out on that and promote it, show some transparency within the community, and at the same time that we're lowering people's water bills, we're also conserving water. So I think it's a win-win that needs to be promoted. Thank you.
Mr. Matthews.
Okay. In addition to the fact that you know I have a big problem with Google, and I'm going to continue to have that big problem whether I win or lose, because I think it's important for all of us. But in addition to that, there's the problem of safe water in America, not just Mount Pleasant. There are 3,000 contaminants in the groundwater throughout the United States of America that we can't test for. We can only test for 50 contaminants in the groundwater in the U.S. I would work very stringent, very hard to make sure that tests for these other 2,500 and some odd contaminants are not in our water. Right now, Mount Pleasant meets and exceeds all the standards that the U.S. has. However, what about the future? I'm going to give you a quote. As a simplified water allocation model, I intend to make sure that we'll be up to date. The Environmental Working Group, which is a nonprofit group, suggests that the drinking water in the United States of America can cause at least 100,000 cancer deaths a year. It's very important that we move forward, and as a commissioner, since I don't have any other jobs to do other than the budget, the finance, I'm going to help, hopefully, to make sure that the standards of water in America are better. Thank you.
Ms. Page.
There's one issue. It's my issue. It should be your issue. It needs to be our issue. And that issue is assuring, sooner than later, SD DHEC puts in place a water management plan. It all falls underneath that. How much water Google gets to use, how much water farms get to use, how much water people get to use, how much we have to conserve. Folks, we have to do better. You know, we've got lush green lawns. We don't talk about the rain chains that are out front, in front of this beautiful library and the native plants. You know, it all falls under a water management plan. That's what we're lacking here. Septic tanks fall under water management. You know, we talk about conservation, and conservation is key. But you know, we have over 90 septic tanks that line the banks of Shim Creek alone. Not to talk about the others that are everywhere else. I have a great relationship with DHEC. I have had many opportunities to serve. I was actually on the COG committee, the environmental committee, when the Google issue first came up. We were assured 3 years ago that they would have it in place, and they don't, guys. That's our issue with water immediately.
Thank you. We have time for response. Mr. Crosby.
Just one quick comment, and it's down the pole a little bit, but it's exceedingly important. The water industry, and we talked about this a lot this past year at a conference out in Denver, but I think consumers fail to realize the value of water. When we got up this morning, we were able to put water in our coffee pot, we were able to brush our teeth, we were able to flush the toilet, we're able to take a shower, and it's all there on demand, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. We didn't miss a beat during any of the hurricanes. You had water, you had wastewater, and even back to those that were here during Hugo, we had water, but you had to boil it. But we take water for granted. No water, no beer, no water, no coffee, no water, no wine. It is indeed an essential element of our life, and I would like for you to remember that. Thank you.
Mr. Matthews.
Just tailing in on Ms. Page's comment, DHEC. Here's the fact of the matter. Google got a permit in less than 7 days. We were at the same meeting with DHEC. We still don't have our permit, the Mount Pleasant Waterworks. As far as I'm concerned, the fix is in. I don't know whether maybe Linda has a special way she can work with these people, but as far as I can see, they're not working with us, and we're going to have to do something better to make sure we can work with them. Thank you.
We have time for one more question, and then we'll do our closing comments for the Waterworks Commission. Here's the question. What will you do to keep rates low, and what infrastructure issues do we face? Mr. Hopkins.
To begin with, I'm opposed to any systematic fee increases for Mount Pleasant Waterworks. I know the cost of business is going up, the cost of employees are going up, the cost of fuel is going up, but I pledge to make sure every line item before a fee is implemented, that it's vetted and it's to the best interest of Mount Pleasant Waterworks and its customers. Could you repeat the rest of the question, please?
What infrastructure issues do we face?
Infrastructure issues, when things are going through water, the water has sodium in it. Things are going to degrade and corrode over time. So I think it's important to have efficient budgeting, efficient planning, and to have a long-range plan in place to replace these infrastructure items. So we're never caught, with the toilet not being able to flush, that things will always keep moving forward. And efficient budgeting is a way to do it, and it helps keep rates down doing that. Thank you.
Mr. Matthews.
Okay, Mount Pleasant Waterworks buys water from the Charleston water system at a cost of $0.0172. So that's 0.172 bills. And I think that if Google is able to get deep into our wells, we're going to have to purchase more and more water from the Mount Pleasant water system, which costs more than the water we draw from our own wells. And that's why I made it such a principal issue. In addition, there are many, many things on the planet right now, on the planning stage right now, where we're digging a new well. The well is $1.5 million. We have to make sure that that well comes in. We have to make sure that the $2 billion in assets that this company has, and that's a lot of money, is well taken care of, and that's what the commissioner's job is to do. Make sure that that money is used perfectly, is used particularly good for all the citizens of this community. So that's it for me for now. Thank you.
Ms. Page.
I'm sad to tell you that your water commissioners are not going to reduce your water rates. I'm happy to tell you that as a Mount Pleasant water customer myself, and have been for decades, our water rates are fairly low, guys. And if you're not a volumetric user or a high user or a person who has problems with the way your reading is coming out, we all have a pretty good deal. You know, I pay about $50 a month for my water, and I enjoy it free flowing, just like Rick said. The second issue is about infrastructure, and I'll tell you, we have 163 pump stations for Mount Pleasant Waterworks. That's a whole lot of pump stations. And infrastructure is key to everything that we do. And the reason we have so many pump stations is we're flat. You know, everything has to be pumped. You know, pump it somewhere else. And then you talk about a big expense that's coming up and looming on the horizon is Highway 41. You know, those pipes are laying out there in bluff mud. And that road is going to get widened. And now I live in Brickyard. I promise y'all, you know, I see Mayor Haney in the back. Hi, how you doing, Mayor? It's going to get widened, and they're doing a good job to ensure that's going to happen. But when that happens, all that infrastructure that's already in the mud for Mount Pleasant Waterworks is going to have to be repaired and replaced. So can I reduce your water rates? No, I think we have a pretty good deal. Can I help you understand your water bill more? I hope so. You know, it's not confusing. It's all on the website, and I hope as a commissioner I'm open and transparent. The joke is if you don't have my cell phone, you're not in the know.
Mr. Crosby.
So I'm guessing that most of you know that Mount Pleasant Waterworks has one source of revenue, one, and that's the rate that you pay each and every month. One of my goals as being on this commissioner and as being chair has been to run this like a business. And in part of doing that, financial stability has been paramount in my mind. If you look at this facility, if you look at the surrounding neighborhoods, we live in a very affluent, well-heeled, well-educated society. Your waterworks complements that well-heeled society that we live in. We are financially strong. During the past 6 years while I've been on your board, we've had upgrades from Moody's and Standard & Poor's, which affects our borrowing capacity and reduces our rates when we do go to the bond markets. It's very important for us to keep our rates stable. The financial analysts love it. They like our ability to raise rates when it is needed. If you look and if you Google to Atlanta, there's an EPA publication that came out about 30 days ago. The average water bill in Atlanta is $150 a month, and 50% of the people that live in Atlanta and use Atlanta water are low to moderate income people. So the challenge is how to fund those people's ability to pay their bills in addition to keeping their doors open.
We are now at time for closing comments. These are 60-second closing comments. Ms. Page, we're going to start with you, and I'm going to ask the candidates to stand for the closing comments for those who have not been able to see them. Ms. Page.
Again, thank you all very much to the sponsors of the event tonight. Thank you for taking a few minutes out of your day, guys. These folks that are joining me in the race to serve you on your water commission need to be applauded, and I hope in the end you'll hold your applause, but I hope that you do. The people who are running for council need to be applauded as well, guys. It's not an easy job, you know. I told someone today, they said, why run for Mount Pleasant Waterworks? Well, I was honored to serve you for 8 years. I haven't served for 2, and I've been adjusting and moving. And here's why I'm asking for your vote tonight. I understand each and every issue. Clean water, septic tanks that are affecting our waterways, and industry pulls on the precious Charleston aquifer. I get it. I know how to build a budget. I'd appreciate your support and vote on November 5th. Remember, the most important thing that you have to do, though, is go vote.
Mr. Matthews. Reverse order, sorry.
Well, I want to thank you all for coming tonight. I think I'd also like to thank a few other people. The League and the Vote411.org. I think it's been a wonderful, wonderful opportunity for people to use the internet and see what the 4 of us have been up to for the past 2 months. So I'd like to congratulate them. I'd like to also suggest that those of you who don't go on Next Door Neighbor, go on Next Door Neighbor. Since this campaign started, I've made about over 200 friends and settled some issues, and will continue to post on the Next Door Neighbor, either listening to you or spouting off like I've been for the next couple of days, 7 days. And finally, I'd like to suggest to those of you who have never heard of it before that there is a Citizens Water Academy, and I've been one of the people that attended. As a matter of fact, I graduated 15 minutes ago, so I'm late for that graduation. I've been there for the past 2 months, and that's how I learned a lot about this water. Thank you very much.
Mr. Hopkins.
Again, thank you all for coming. Thank you for hosting. It's the first time I've been up to this new library, and it's fantastic. I would just like to say that if you put your trust in me, being a native, being local, working on the water here, being, I think, what is probably more intimately involved in our water and our resources than other people, would give me a leg up. I really love our town. I love the people. And if you put your trust in me, I promise to work hard, to be transparent, to not let you down, and to try to lead. Thank you very much.
Mr. Crosby.
That's the last. The water industry is a highly regulated technical industry, and you may have surmised some of that tonight from the comments of these 3 candidates and myself. The American Water Works Association came out with a recent motto that water is life. I will tell you that for the past 21 years, water has been my life. It has been a deep privilege to work with you, to serve you, and to do everything that I can to make our Mount Pleasant Water Works a better facility, a better place to work. 4 times we've been selected best place to work in South Carolina. We've got 133 dedicated employees, and I know most of them. You are very fortunate to have a facility and a group of folks of that nature. I ask that you vote and re-elect. I'm the only candidate here running for re-election. I've been through those 21 budget cycles. I know the system intimately, and I would greatly appreciate your support next November the 5th. Thank you.
Please give our Waterworks team a big round of applause. The candidates for town council are invited to come forward and take their seats.
And would you put a comment on there?
What do you want me to say?
Say thank you for tuning in. Okay, tell me if I can hit go on this so it doesn't interrupt. Tell me when you end that one.